Another wee walk on a Sunday, starting a little bit further inland, up at the other side of the road from Mussenden Temple, which is near Castle Rock, where I was last week. And I'm going for a walk that we used to do as a family when, from when I was little until I was in my teens, around the lake at Downhill Park, which is on the other side of the road from Mussenden Temple. This is the place where, as kiddie winkies, we would come when the cousins were up, the Whites, the Moores, and we would come to this particular forest park and have a picnic. And it's a mature forest, as you can see, that was planted by the Harveys. They have the Bristol cream, who owned Mussenden Temple and Downhill Castle. He was the Earl of Bristol, or the Earl of Derry, Bishop of Derry, I get it right, the Bishop of Derry, and because of the death of his older brothers, he was also an Earl, and he was well known as being a bit of an eccentric, but he and his family planted up this forest about 200 years ago. You can see it's quite steep. Lots of places to slide down on your bum when you're wee. I'm not going to do it now. And a great place to find squirrels and sort of wildlife in general. I am told there are pine martens live in this wood. I haven't seen any, but then again they probably see me long before I see them. And we're going, whoa, down this rather steep hill. Oh, there goes a buzzard. And if memory serves, there's a little cave just here that it was purported that either a mad woman, a witch, or a cannibal lived in. Quite honestly, we pretended we were pirates. It was a place where pirates buried their treasure whenever I was 10. And we're coming down now into the valley where the main walks are. This is coming in from the Castle Rock Presbyterian graveyard. Pleasant place to actually be buried. It's very picturesque. There we go, nearly down. There's lots and lots of paths and cubby holes and various interesting places for those of us who are small at heart, if not in age. There are a lot of very big, very old trees here. It has the benefit of being in a north-south glen, which means that because our winds are predominantly from the northeast, it's very sheltered here, even on the windiest of days. It's quite still down here. So it gives the smaller trees a chance to get to be the big brutes you see in front of us. Some impressive trees. And it is nice to walk on beaches, but it's also very nice to walk in forests with the light, particularly this time of year, dappling the ground. Listening to the birds go tweet. There's a blackbird, wood pigeon. That takes us back out to the gate, and this way takes us over a small, what we call in Northern Ireland, a shioch, which is a small stream. And I can remember drifting a fly underneath this bridge and catching smallish trout with my father. And if we walk round the corner here, as you can tell, lots of people go to see Mussenden. Not as many people come to this side of the river because while it's there, it's easy to get to, it's free. People don't generally venture this side, so you can have a nice quiet walk all to yourself along the edge of the wee stream. Now up there on this hill is a place called Dungannon Hill, which was used for many years by scouts and guides to have their jamboree. There's no direct way up, no path up. You just have to scramble up the sides on one of these many paths that we're passing. And on the top it's flat. Now there are rumours that Dungannon Hill was an Iron Age ring fort, or had an Iron Age ring fort at the top of it. But as far as I know, nobody has excavated it as yet. It's unknown, but we like to think of it as being famous in that regard. In the 1970s, this place would have been full of kids yowling and howling and running round, and I would have been one of them, looking for small fish in the wee rivers, because they're so small nobody would ever fish them. But always worth having a go. You never know what you might catch. The wee stream that's over there is part of the feeder waters of a small river called the Pot of Burn, which runs through Articlave, a nearby village, and on out to the sea. just near a place called Dugan's Bay, which is another place that we would go in our youth. Now, we're coming up to a very famous tree, although it is somewhat bigger. This is a monkey puzzle tree, and when it was smaller, before it had several accidents and trimmings, we used to have our picnics sitting on the boughs of this tree. And the Rose Bay willow herb is starting to appear, which is always a nice sign. That's Rose Bay. And it's even, some of it's gone to seed, and come September time, the world will just be awash with the wispy white hairs of the Rose Bay willow herb. And this is the lake. Yeah, hello ducks. Quack, quack, quack. Quack, quack, quack. It's somewhat overgrown now, but it used to be quite deep, and it was put in as a carp holding area for the table, because while we don't have a great taste for carp, back in the Edwardian and Victorian times, carp was actually quite a delicacy. And the big boys who lived in the house up the road were partial to carp and zander and pike. The ever-present ragwort, cowslips, the lake is really getting to the point of needing a good clear out. This is part of the greater National Trust, and to a certain extent they're allowing this side of the road to regrow, what they call it, rewilding. They'll maintain the paths, they'll tidy up any trees that are risky to the public, but they basically just let it go wild, which means that the natural plants have a chance to take hold and grow back. Replacing, there was an awful lot of rhododendrons here, and rhododendrons are a plague because they've stopped everything else growing. And they spent about 4 or 5 years getting rid of the rhododendrons and just letting nature take its course. And we're coming up to a wee bridge where the stream breaks off, goes that way to the Potta, or that way down into the lake. And if we walk a little bit further, I'm not wearing my Crocs today, which is good. We have a waterfall. It's actually a mill, which we're going to walk round to. You can probably hear it. Try very hard not to walk in the really dirty stuff, or Valerie will have me guts for garters. And there's the trees having a bit of a lie down. And another one. but unless it's causing a problem or a blockage, it'll just be left for the little beasties to break down. Quite steep, this hill, and although it's been quite rainy lately, that little waterfall is just a trickle. Ooh. Back where we came from. And up through the forest. There we go. People are actually allowed to bring their bikes in here on these gravel pathways. I'm told that's a thing that people like to do. And we're just passing the waterfall. See if I can get a view of it. There's the old mill house. Water wheel. Oh, it's well overgrown. Used to be able to get down here. The water running in, and the waterfall itself is behind that bush. See if we can get a better look at it from the other side. Whew. Now you may remember I wrote a piece about a place called Largentia a couple of weeks ago, and the headwaters of this wee river are up on that same mountain, but on the other side, that wee river that we saw at Largentia runs down to become part of the River Row, whereas this all becomes part of the Pot of Burn, or at the bottom end of the lake where the water runs out, the little river that comes out downhill. Here we go. Valerie and I nearly bought a wee house with hair, a thatched cottage that's just at the end of this road, this track. But somebody with a big suitcase full of cash came along and offered way more than we can afford. It was famous for the fact it had more garden sheds than bedrooms, and it had a chamomile lawn. Its edges weren't demarcated by fences or walls. It was just chamomile lawn followed by trees, and the trees marked the edge of the property. A lot of people complain about the rewilding of this estate. I actually quite like it. It gives it, that's the old mill house. If I go round the side here, there used to be a little bit of the wheel still round the corner here. Yep, still there, rusting. You can see the big cog and the wheel. The water used to come down a race that I'm standing in at the minute. And there's the other side. That's the bit that turned and poured whatever it was in here. I think it may have been grain. And there's the waterfall, trundling away. In the winter time it's way more dramatic after a bit of rain. And then we just walk round the steps, and the good thing about this back when we were little, Mum and Dad didn't have to walk too far between the car and the picnic site, and they would just let us youngsters run wild, and there should be a sign up at the gate saying "Caution feral children," but they never got around to that. And we had a great time charging around, climbing trees, eating cheese and tomato sandwiches, and drinking squash out of a plastic bottle. Although you don't have smelly vision yet on YouTube, the tail end of the season's wild garlic is hanging on, and there's a marvellous smell of pizza as you walk through here. To say, they just let the trees lie where they fall when it reaches their time, and the beetles and the bugs just have a chance to rot them down to their constituent bits. There used to be a lot of really big logs set about that they'd carved seats into so you could sit on. They have all now rotted away in the 50 years since they put them down. And then, let's stop. If we look up, they were in a gap in the trees, and we are the ones in the sunlight, not the trees. But it's not often you get to see. That's a very old rowan tree, or mountain ash, one of Ireland's native species. Strangely, what they make hurley sticks out of. That's been there for a good couple of 100 years or more. And we're coming back round to the picnic tree. It's quite compact. Downhill forest. There's lots of wiggly paths, but from one end to the other it's not terrible long. We'll walk back to the end of the lake. There is a walk that crosses the lake down at the bottom. That comes across this bridge up at the top here and brings you down to the mill we've just seen. If you were feeling energetic, that is. They've now put a seat in on our picnic spot, which is there. And there's just me, a couple of runners, and the ducks on this Sunday morning at, what time is it? 10:54. There are fish in the lake. It's not very deep, it's only about 3 foot deep, but it's deepest. But there are some coarse fish in there, And the wee streams at both ends have small trout. But this time of year, it's inclined to get very still. There's not a great flow of water. Hello, ducks. And there we have another of the secret paths up to the top of Dungannon Hill. Loads of ferns. Quite common around here. Indeed, it is said that Coleraine comes from two Irish words, cool, meaning corner, and Rathain, meaning ferns. So I may not live in Coleraine, but I might live in Ferny Corner, which sounds vaguely Lord of the Ringsy. Perhaps I am indeed a hobbit, a bit tall for a hobbit, but maybe I wasn't well and grew an extra couple of feet. I do have the hairy feet though. Loads more Rose Bay. Just coming into season. Stinging nettles. You really wouldn't want to fall into there. But in the nature of these things, you get a big clump of stinging nettles like that, which, unfortunate if you fall in, but beside any big growth of stinging nettles, you will find a plant. Now, whether or not it actually does any good or not, I don't know, called dock. And if you rub a dock leaf onto a stinging nettle sting, it is meant to ease the pain. Probably all psychosomatic. And needless to say, having said that, I'm looking around, I don't see any. Which is odd. Oh no. There's some. This is dock. That was on the other side of the road, the side I wasn't looking at. And this is the bottom end of the lake, where the lake empties out down this slipway and runs down to meet the sea, downhill under the bridge. And just down here, I come to the path up, and rather than put you through the purgatory of me puffing and panting up the hill, this is where I'll call it a day. So, bye-bye, love all.